everyone. Today we will learn about our last two elements of art. So please have your foldable poster, notebook paper, whatever you're writing the definitions on, have it ready for you because you can just write it as I go over them and explain it. You won't be turning in the cover to me, but I would love it for you to work on it and design it because that will help you remember the definitions. So let's get started. Our essential question, the first one is the same thing as it has been for the past few weeks, which is how do artists use the elements of art to convey a meaning, message, or thought into their artwork? Our goal is or my goal for all of you is for you to be able to create art with real meaning and intentions, not just do it because it looks pretty, which is fine too, but let's practice doing things really purposefully. So we do have a new essential question for this week because we will be focusing on critiquing or giving feedback. So that essential question is, which art element can be recognized in works of art? So this week, you all will be able to comment on other people's artwork while stating which art element or elements they are using. Okay. Quick review. You can pause and read this if you'd like. I did read it over last week, so I'm going to move along. So space is used to create the illusion of depth within a piece of artwork. It can also be the positive and negative space between, around, or within objects. Dimension or perspective can be created by overlapping shapes, varying the size or the shape's location. So space is, it could be two things basically. It can be the first idea, which is the illusion of depth. And depth means how far something goes back into space or how real something looks. Like if you think about shading, when you shaded your circle to a sphere, you added more depth because it took up space by looking like it was 3D instead of flat. So that's one way. And this photo right here says 6 ways to create the illusion of space on a 2D surface. So like in your drawings. We have linear perspective, which is this drawing right here. And that's when you have a point on the horizon line where the sun meets the earth. Think about the Lion King if you've seen it. There's usually a point anywhere on that line and everything intersects over there. So if you're looking at a cityscape, all the buildings would look like it was angled to that one space. Of course, it's a little more complicated than that sometimes, but that's the general idea for when you're drawing. Overlapping, literally overlapping things. I have squishy chapstick. If I put my squishy right in front of my chopstick, it's going to create the sense of space because it looks bigger. Another option is changing the size. Squishy is in the front, chopstick is all the way back here. Looks really big and it looks really small. And that creates sense of depth and space, which is what you can do when you draw. So another part of space is that it can also mean the positive and negative space of a drawing. And this is kind of tricky, so I want you to think about positive space meaning the object, negative space is the background. So in this example here, where the vase cup looking thing is black, when it's black, it's being the positive space. That's what we're focusing on. That's the object. And when you just look at that, you see that vase-like shape. And then when it switches, when we're focusing on the negative space is our focus. So in this one, we're focusing on the negative space. That gives us a really different image, right? It looks like a profile of a face, two people looking at each other. So space can be tricky, but it doesn't always have to mean perspective. Sometimes it's literally just the object versus its background. Form are three-dimensional, 3D. They can be viewed from many different angles. They have volume and take up space. Basically, form is anything that's real to the touch. It's an actual object, whether that is a sculpture, a paper, sculpture type thing, or an art installation, like maybe with like hanging lights and stuff like that. Those are all forms. So form, anything that is real, not on 2D or paper. So for this week, the artists are organized from oldest to more contemporary or new again. So our first artist, who mostly uses space over form in his art, is named Henry Osawa Tanner. He was born in the 1800s and he was an African American painter. His work reached international fame and he eventually moved to Paris, France, to continue his studies, enrolling at the Pennsylvania Academy of the Fine Arts in Philadelphia. Tanner was the only Black student during that time, but quickly made connections with other painters. His paintings also used many biblical themes. So I want you to just pause this so you can take more time, but think about what other elements you see in his paintings. There are so many different elements going on, but to look at these space specifically, this artist actually uses color and value to help give the illusion of space. So there isn't as much overlapping necessarily, or even a vanishing point on a horizon line to make linear perspective, which was a dot on the horizon line. So in this one on the left, you see darker blues and greens in the front. So that feels closer to us. And then you can see that light is coming from the back because this arch cuts off that wall. So there's a bit of space going on, and the same thing is happening on the right, but light color in the front, dark in the back. Okay. Take some time or pause this video and take some time and think about how space is working here. Is there overlapping colors? Think about it, and you all share your answers next week, not this week, but this will be here for you. Our second artist is named Kayla May, and she is an artist who is currently alive, so you should definitely check out her work. You can find a place for my face. So I grabbed her information from her website because it was really well written, so I didn't feel the need to change anything. But Kayla May is really cool artist. So living in our society can be tough, and most of the time we have to make the best of it. A wild imagination can take you so far, but at the end of the day, we need to realize and observe the world around us. And the world around us is where I find my inspiration to paint. Colorful paintings that contain hints of whimsy and realism, that tell a story of inner thoughts and personal issues that sometimes go unheard. Being born and raised on the south side of Chicago, Illinois, only ignited my love for all things art. Seeing the struggle and the support from the community made my work evolve to a concept that is personal to me. I continue to further my technique and creativity in my field in order to paint a beautiful picture of a new world for those around me. So again, please take a look at her art and think about what other elements you see. We know all of them now. So pause, think about it. I'll talk about the next two. Okay. So again, she uses space in her work, not really form because it's a painting, right? So it's flat. And in these two pieces, she uses some similar techniques, but also different. It's mostly overlapping. Do you see how this flower is in front and is hiding the little girl's like shin-ish area? And how her braid is over this character who's holding it, and this cup is in front of her. Even though they still look small because they are small objects, just by being in front of her, that creates a sense of space and depth because there are things on different levels of space, not just flat and right next to each other. So if my squishy and my pack of highlighters, if they're all next to me in a drawing, super flat, it's not always the most interesting to look at, especially in a drawing. But I could maybe have this held up here and then have this held up here in a little back, and that would create a more dynamic composition or drawing. And then in the right painting, very similar methods with overlapping and changing sizes, but there's actually a little vanishing point So vanishing point is the point on the horizon line, so somewhere in the background of an artwork where everything leads to it. So in this case, not everything is leading to it, but the road is getting smaller and smaller. So you see how we start off with a huge angle of the road in the front, and it kind of disappears as we wind all the way back over this hill. If it was all the same size, it wouldn't look like it was going back. So by making it small, it gives us a sense of space. But because not everything is following it, it's kind of breaking perspective rules. But that's the cool thing about art. Once you know these rules, you can start breaking it and create your own look. Our third artist, his name is Mark Chai, and his About Me is also from his website. The glow of embers in a beach campfire in Hawaii. The play of moonlight through the leaves of palm trees. The precision of craftsmen building a wooden fence in Japan. Body surfing in the curl of the wave. These are the childhood memories of artist Mark Chai that inspire his hand-cut modern lamps and sculpture. Made of fine woods and recycled white plastic, carved into interlocking pieces of flowing curves. His designs of light and shadow reflect and fill the negative and positive spaces. Mark Chai's work has been in Dwell New Yorker, House Beautiful, Sunset, Travel and Leisure Home, Honolulu, and Hawaii Modern Luxury magazines. So just a lot of different magazines. In the Wallpaper Honolulu City Guide, and on MTV's Real World. So he is our main example for form for this presentation. So everything you see is form because they are real. They're tangible. They're not just on paper or a canvas. They're sculptural, but they use other elements too, right? So in the sculpture on the left, I would say there's shape with these interesting semi-organic ones. They're little sharp corners though. And then just, I think there are shapes created with the lines. So you have shape and lines working together, and same thing with this one. So you see these three elements are all coming together. Similar thing is happening with his lamps, and in his bio when they were talking about filling up the positive and negative space, because the lamp can't light up everything, right? But you see how it just lits like these really interesting curves where he's cut into the lamp. So that's the meaning of that, and you can also interpret it as filling up the actual space of a room, since they are things that can actually be used. So those are our artists. We're going to continue to look at their work for this week and next week. So please get familiar with them, and I'll see you on Wednesday.